I'm Melissa and welcome back to Book Bar and welcome to my 2024 favorites. So my favorite reads of 2024, of which there are 24-ish. And yeah, I had a decent reading year. I think in filming this on the 31st, it's still a little early. I have one book that I'm still currently reading, but it won't be a favorite. It's a holiday romance. It's just for fun. I'm just enjoying it. It's more for the vibes. Not ready to let go of Christmas yet. So that's why I'm reading it. But it won't, I know it won't be like a new favorite or anything. So it is not going to change this list at all. So yeah, I didn't write down any stats or anything. I'm probably gonna do a separate video on like my reading statistics for the year and everything. But I did write down my 24 favorites. I think by the end of the year, I will have read 255 books, which is less than last year, but I'm still proud of how much I read. I think it wasn't a great reading year. Like my average was probably like a high 3, low 4, which isn't great. Like I read a lot of just fine books, like books that like when I was like going through my favorites, I was like all the books I read, I was like, I don't remember this. So yeah, these books are my 5 favorites, or my 24 favorites. 1 through 5 are probably my top 5, and probably in order. They might change 1 or 2, but those 5 are my 5 favorites. And then everything else could, besides my 2 honorable mentions, everything else could be one day, one could be my 4th favorite, one day one could be my 6th favorite. So it just kind of depends. And so yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and get on into it with my 2 honorable mentions, which I never put non-romances in my top 24 because I mostly read romances. I am a romance channel. Most people that watch me are watching me for my romance books. So, but I do occasionally like read other genres, and I did read Vera Wong's Unsolicited Guide for Murderers this year by Jessie Cusatonto, and I absolutely adored this. It was just a cute, fun, cozy mystery following an old lady who owns a tea shop. And then I read Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. I read this. It was a buddy read with my dad. We read it together. It was our only win that we had this year. We actually, I think we gave 2 of our books like 3 stars. Like they were just fine, and we DNF'd 1, and then we kind of took a break and haven't read any more together, but we do have plans for 2026. I'm going to try to read a book a month with my dad at least, if not more. I'm kind of trying to like figure out, because he recently got a library card, and so yeah, we've been reading books together and it's fun. But yeah, so I read Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. It's a fun like family saga murder mystery type book, which I realized is what my dad likes. He's not a big like he doesn't mind thrillers. He's more of like a murder mystery guy. He likes fantasies, especially like murder mystery fantasies. So if you have any, let me know. That's what I could. But he's more of like that than like a thriller horror guy. So yes. But now we're just gonna go ahead and get on into my 24-ish favorite books. Starting at number 24, we have Juniper Hill by Devney Perry. This is the 2nd book in the Eden series. I went back and forth on this one or the 6th book, but I think objectively this one is the better book than the other one, than Sable Peak. I personally loved Sable Peak, but I know a lot of people didn't. So I think objectively this is the one that people love a lot more. I mean, I did love this book. I mean, it was tied for like this and Sable Peak were my 2 favorites of the series. But this follows Knox and Memphis, and Knox is one of the Edens, and Memphis is a single mom who gets a job working at the Eloise Inn, and she needs a place to stay, and she ends up living in the garage above, the garage apartment, or the apartment above Knox's garage. That's what I was looking for. And her son is very much I think it's Drake is his name, but her son is a night owl, and he likes to cry all throughout the night, and it wakes Knox up. And so one day he goes over there and tries to help Memphis, and they, form a bond. And yeah, it is absolutely amazing. I loved this. Definitely a favorite and deserved to be on there. And Devney Perry was my most read author, so I did have to include a book from her. on here. I will say there is a caveat. I only include one book from an author. I don't do more than one. And so I picked my favorite from that author for that year. So I read, I think, 11 or 12 Devney Berry books this year, Devney Berry / Willa Nash books. And that one was probably my favorite. So yes, moving on. I have Burnout by Rebecca Genchak. This is the first book in her new like Holland Brothers series. I never read the book series that it like spins off of. I do want to go back and reread it or read it. It is a like goal of mine in 2025. But this follows another Knox and Avery. And Knox is a BMX rider and Avery is a gymnast. So it's fun because it's different sports than we usually see. And they don't like each other at first. But then Knox needs help. And the only person who can help him is Avery because he decides he's not going to be a BMX rider. He's going to do like tricks and stuff, and he needs help with like balance and things. And obviously being a gymnast, Avery is very good at that. So they start working out together, and you know, one thing's going to lead to another. It was fantastic. I loved it. Playbook was also really good, but I would definitely say Burnout was my favorite. So then we have Only for the Weak by Natasha Bishop. This book is amazing. It is the perfect example of like a short book that packs a punch and gets a lot in there. And I mean, is it like the world's greatest book ever? No, it's not. But it is, if you are looking for a good time and black love, a good time, fun, summer vibes, like if you need to pick me up, this book is perfect. I read it at like the perfect time. I read it after finishing House of Flame and Shadow and the day I lost my job. So I needed something light and fun that was gonna keep my mind off of all of the chaos going on in my brain, and this book definitely helped that. But yeah, this follows Rome and Janelle, and Janelle is the maid of honor to her in her sister's wedding. Rome is the best man. The only problem is Janelle's sister is marrying Janelle's ex. Now, Janelle does not care. She is not mad that her sister and her ex are getting married. She knew her and her ex had really like very little chemistry and weren't meant to be. So she's not like upset about it. She knows that, she knows that her ex and her sister are more compatible than she was with him. And Rome has always been intrigued by Janelle. And he knows that she's doing everything for everyone else and not really taking time for herself. And he's like, you know what? I'm gonna make you take time for yourself. So the first week of this 2-week-long vacation that they're on, he says, I want you to do whatever I say. I want you to go where let me take care of you for this week. So that's why it's only for the week, even though they're there on vacation for 2 weeks. But fantastic. I loved this. It was so good. I am so glad that I read it. This Hella Lovely edition is stunning. Love it. Obsessed. Yes, moving on. Then I have Homebound by Meredith Trapp. This is I think it's connected to another romance that she wrote, her debut romance. I think it was Icebound. I didn't read that one. But Homebound follows Dakota and Wyatt. And Wyatt is a single father, and it's the off season for he's a hockey player, and it's the off season, and he's going home to Texas to visit his mom's and also to win the heart of the girl he's in love with, Dakota. And he's always been in love with Dakota, and she's always kind of just looked at him as like a little brother, friend type of guy, and he is determined to make her see that there is more to him than she knows. And he's gonna do it, and he's gonna use his adorable daughter to help him. Yeah, I had a great time. It was a wonderful book. Next up is Play Along by Liz Tomforty. I think that's how you say it. This is the 4th book in her Windy City series. I didn't like Mile High, and I almost didn't continue the series. And then this year I read The Right Move, Caught Up, and this one, and Play Along. And The Right Move was okay. Like, I know a lot of people loved it. I don't get the hype. I didn't like Ryan Shea all that much. He wasn't ultimate book boyfriend to me. And then I really did enjoy Caught Up, because, you know, I love a good baseball romance. And then, of course, Play Along is also baseball, and it is Waking Up Married, which is, like, I love that trope. It is just fun, and Isaiah and Kennedy were adorable, and I loved it. So, yeah, that's on there. Then we have a book that I own, but I gave it to my mom to read, and that is Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. This is Xander and Gwen, and so Xander was in Forget Me Not, and it took me a long time to read this book. I didn't read it till December because I wanted to reread Forget Me Not and like see where Xander came in, and then I remembered he's the cellist for the couple at the wedding that gets married in the first book. And in the second book, it follows him and this girl, Gwen. And they work together at an orchestra or a symphony. And he's kind of the cocky bad boy, and she is quiet, like eighth chair, just does her job, and she gets noticed by the higher-ups. And Xander has something to do with the higher-ups, and we don't know what it is. And they, of course, fall in love. And it was adorable. I loved it. I'm glad I finally read it. Then we have a debut book, and that is When You Left Me Speechless by Jess Christine. I read this. I don't remember if I got an arc of it or if I just read it like release day, because I had seen a lot, like the tropes looked amazing. It was one of those, like the graphic on Instagram got me. And I am so glad that I read this. This is Logan and Poppy. I read this for one of my new release vlogs. It's linked above. And this book just like had me in a chokehold for a while. I adored this. I thought this was going to be one of, like, up there as one of my favorites, but or as like top 5, but there's other books that have pushed it down. But I did still really enjoy it. It is kind of forbidden because Poppy is a speech therapist student, and so she goes to work at a school, and at the school, and there's like a rule at the school where you, like, the student teachers can't, like, there can be no relations between student teachers and like regular teachers, even though Logan is not her direct boss. There's still, it's a no-no situation, and of course they fall for each other, and yeah, it was so good, and I'm so excited for the next book, which comes out in January. Cannot wait. Then we have Skies Over Caledonia by Samantha Young. This is the 4th book, I think, 4th or 5th book in the Highlands series, all interconnected standalones. And this one, I feel like you could, more so than the others, but you could totally read this one without having read the others. Now, obviously, Allegra is the sister of the heroine in book 2, and Jared is the brother of the heroine in book 3. But this one, actually, there's like a time, so I think there's, Samantha Young said there's like 3 or 4 time jumps in, or 3 time jumps in the series, or 2. Maybe there's 2. So there's a time jump between the 3rd book, I can't remember the name of it, and this one, and then there's a time jump between this one and Northern Twilight. But this one follows Jared and Allegra, and Allegra has always kind of had a crush on Jared McCulloch, and he's kind of the quiet, broody, bad boy, farmer's grandson, like, doesn't really like a lot of people, likes to go out and drink his problems away. And one day at a bar, him and Allegra are talking, and she's like, basically, every 6 months, she goes and stays in Scotland for 6 months with her sister, and she's been doing this for years, and it's finally caught up to her, and the Scottish government is basically like, the next time you leave, you can't come back. Like, you will not be welcome for a long time. Like, you've been basically living here without being a citizen. So she needs to change her citizenship and change it quick. And so what better way to do it than to marry her longtime crush? So they enter into a marriage of a convenience, and it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. There was so much my wife energy. Chef's kiss, amazing, loved it. Then we have another book that I own that I gave to my mom to read, and that is The Notorious Lord Knightley by Lorraine Heath. This is my only historical that I have on here. I read a couple 5-star historicals, but this one still to this day, like, sticks in my brain, and is a book that I will probably never forget. So this follows Regina and Lord Knightley, and Regina is, she was basically like outcasted from society because she got stood up at the altar, like left at the altar by this notoriously known rake. And now she's decided she's gonna write some stories about him, but she like makes up these stories and publishes them. And Knightley realizes that these are about him, and he goes and finds her, and he learns some secrets, and she learns why he jilted her and all of the things. But yeah, it has some of my favorites. I love Jilted at the Altar. There's a huge surprise. I don't want to spoil, but I loved it so much. So good. Then we have His Tesoro by Amelia Rossi. This is a mafia arranged marriage romance between Sophia and Matteo, and this had great disability rep. From what I heard from people that have like use mobility aids, like it is very much a, like, these things do happen to them. But this is, so Sophia is the daughter of the head of the Bratva, and Matteo is the Don of the Italian mafia. And I think it's the Camorra, I could be wrong, but he is the Don of the Italian mafia. And he strikes up a deal with the head of the Bratva, to marry off his daughter. And the first time he meets this girl, she is wheeling herself down the aisle in a wheelchair. And he's like, and you know, in the mafia world, this could be seen as a slight to him. And he's like, what, you gave me a bad deal, you're giving me a disabled person, like this is a weakness, like how am I supposed to protect this girl? She's in a wheelchair, like you're giving me a weak spot. Like it's very much it's sad, but it is like factual things that like happen. I mean, sorry, yeah. So basically they enter into an arranged marriage, and he is so grumpy and mean to her, but she is determined to win his heart, and she does that by baking things for his men. And he gives off a lot of my wife energy also, and he wants to kill anyone that eats his baked goods. But yeah, it was so good. I cried, I laughed, I read this book in like one day. I loved it so much. Then we have another author that I probably could have picked 4 or 5 books from, and that is Catherine Cowles. This is Delicate Escape. This is the second book in her newest Sparrow Falls series. Romantic suspense, small town, just amazing. Slight spin-off of the Lost and Found series, but this follows Shep and Thea, and Shepard is the brother of the sister, or of the heroine from book 1, and Thea is the girl who like works at the bakery, and she also works at the nursery that the heroine in book 1 works at. And Thea is, and everyone knows, like, there's something about Thea. Everything she does is she's paid under the table. She doesn't use credit cards. She doesn't have a cell phone. Like, she doesn't do anything. She's very off the grid, and she will not let anyone into her house. And you learn why pretty early on. And then, you know, she needs some help with some stuff. And so Shep helps her. And he knows that he needs to earn her trust. So he like slowly starts to earn her trust. Like he like does work on the outside of her house, and like he's like, that's fine, I'll do what I can, because she ends up with like a broken pipe, and obviously a busted pipe is going to lead to all sorts of problems. And so he's like, I will do what I can on the outside, and like he slowly works his way into the house and into her heart. And yeah, loved it. So good. The series is shaping up to all be 5 stars. So, but this one was my favorite. Then we have House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. Of course, I'm going to include this. Do I see the flaws of it, like now that it's been months since reading it? Yes, but it is still, I mean, Sarah J. Maas just can write the hell out of a book, and this is no exception. Loved it. Obsessed. Can't really say much because it is the 3rd book in a series, following Bryce Quinlan, who is a half fae, half human girl living in like the world, living in Crescent City. And she ends up, in the 1st book, she ends up needing to pair up with Fallen Angel and Athalar, and you know, things happen from there. Loved it. This book was like an Avengers epic battle. There was like epic battles, crazy. Loved it. Then we have my first of like the cheats, and that is Saving and Redeeming 6 by Chloe Walsh. I'm counting these as one book, one massive, ginormous, chunky, humongous book, because it is one full story following Joey and Aoife. And this is, you cannot read these without having read Binding Keeping 13, which last year those were on my favorites of the year. And I read these like super early into the year, or these in January. I think I read Saving Six in January. Like, it was on my first book that I picked up, and then Redeeming Six like early in February. So love this. Joey and Eva are everything. Joey is very broken, and Eva just wants to help him. And so yeah, absolutely amazing. Nice legs. Then we have Dead Rinker by Ruth Stilling. Ruth Stilling is an author that I discovered this year, and every book in her series has gotten, in the Seattle Scorpion series, has gotten better. The first book was fine. I gave it 4 stars, Border Hearts, and then I enjoyed book 2 a little bit more. But Dead Rinker is everything I ever never knew I needed. JJ is absolutely 100% so gone for Kate. Like, from the beginning, he knows. They have a very awkward, so you do kind of have to read the series in order because you do see like their first meeting in the first book, and they have like an awkward encounter, and ever since then Kate kind of hates JJ and was very antagonistic towards him, but he might act like he hates her, but really he loves her. And they're at a wedding and they decide to have one night together, but that one night just might have some very real complications. But yeah, I loved this, and I'm super excited for the next book in the series. Then we have another author that I discovered this year, Out of Focus by Christina Santos. This is another one where I got a book. I read the second book, Sparks Still Fly, was a book that the trope graphic on Instagram like completely hooked me. I was like, I need to read that, so I did. And then I really enjoyed it, but then I read Out of Focus, and Charlie and Raph are absolutely everything. I am obsessed with them, and I cannot wait for Raph's brothers to get the Machado series. But yeah, I loved it. So good. Then we have Beating Heart by Laura Pavlov. This is the 4th book in her Magnolia Falls series, I believe is what it is. This is Nash Hartley, who you know is the father of Beefcake. And Beefcake is the little boy who is in all the books, because he, you know, ends up loving all of his uncle's girls. And if in the end of the 3rd book, something happened to Beefcake. And so now there's this new doctor in town, and that new doctor is Emerson. And Emerson and Nash don't get off onto the right foot, because Nash is like he questions why this young new doctor is in town and what she's doing in this small town. And yeah, you know, one thing's gonna lead to another, and it's just so good. They end up being neighbors. There's an adorable dog. Beefcake is just the best. Probably my favorite character of the whole year. Loved it. So amazing. It was a great series. I'm like, can't believe she published that whole series in 1 year. It's crazy. But yeah. Next up is Between Never and Forever by Britt Benson. I also read this in a vlog. This was, actually I think a lot of these are read for vlogs because a lot of them are new releases, but this one I read in a like reading for 24 hours, which I kind of read in 24 hours. And this is a book that had been on my TBR for a long time. This follows Sav and Levi, and Sav is she's from the wrong side of the tracks from Levi. So this book takes place in like 3 parts. So part 1 is when they're young and they're in like high school, and Levi is very much his father is the pastor, and he's very much like told what he can and can't do. And Sav is from the wrong side of the tracks. Her mom is a drug addict, and there's all sorts of other issues at home. And Levi tries to get her help, and it ends up backfiring, and so she runs away. And then like 3 or 4 years later, they meet up in Miami, where she is now working as for lack of a better word, she's a stripper, but she's also like a singer on the side with this band. And they have a night together, and then after their night, like Levi's like, please, like I want to be with you. I've like left my family. I'm in college. Like I want us to be together. I've always loved you. Like please. And he ends up getting a text message that he is going to be a father. And Sav is very upset about this, and she's like, well, I'm about to go on tour with my band, so bye. I don't ever want to hear from you again. Now it's like 7 years later, and she is going to be filming a movie in the town near where she grew up, where her and Levi grew up. And Levi is now a single father. Something tragic happened to his ex-wife, and yeah, it is just heartbreaking. I cried so much during this book, but like it's also like hopeful and there's so much positivity in this book. But yeah, 5 stars. Oh, these are all 5 stars, but yeah, definitely a surprise. A book I read in like one sitting, even though it is a big book. It's like 500 something pages, and I read this in one sitting with my eyeballs physically. So you know, I was hooked. Then we have Slaying the Shadow Prince by Helen Scher. This is the like standalone in the Legends of Thesmar series, which I did really read and enjoyed that whole series. None of them were like standout absolute favorites. This is the best book in the series. So, which the series is now like it's going to expand to a new part of the series in the in 2025, which I'm excited for. But yeah, this book particularly follows Talamir and Drew. And Talamir is a guardian of Thesmar, but he has a secret. He's also half Shadow Wraith, and Drew is determined to kill all of the Shadow Wraiths she comes in contact with because they destroyed her town. And yeah, Talamir and Drew may have some heated moments, and when she learns the truth, like, oh, this book was just so good. I think I read it in like 24 hours. I loved it. Fantastic. Definitely my favorite of the Legends of Thesmar series. And people that don't read this book are missing out, because I do know like people like, cause there's different spots where you say you should read it. I read it before I read the series, so and it was fine. This ended up being my favorite, but I know a lot of people don't make it past like book, because it's a 4-book series. A lot of people don't make it past book 2, and this is technically supposed to read between books 3 and 4, and so a lot of people don't get to it, but get to it. It is so good. I loved it. Then we have This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. Unpopular opinion, I liked this more than Before I Let Go. I like Soledad and Judah were just amazing. I loved them. I know a lot of people said this one wasn't a romance. Like Judah doesn't really have a story arc. Like he doesn't have a character arc. It's more Soledad's story, and that's fine. I still loved it. I still loved their romance. I loved them together, and I cannot wait for the 3rd book to come out this year. And just like, I mean, look how stunning that is. Loved this. I think I bought this on my birthday because it came out like right around my birthday. So yes, amazing. Then we have this, oh, that was number 6. So now we're into my top 5, and my 5 favorites are my 5 favorites, like I said. And coming in at number 5, we have Take My Hand by McKay Marie. This is the second book in the Whisper Me Nothing series, and this book had me sobbing on an airplane. I loved Hayden and Carter so much, and this book is going to have some like a topic that a lot of people are going to like shake their heads at and be like, oh, I can't believe that this was included. But McKay did it so well, and the emotions I had while reading this book, it is amazing. Hayden is like ultimate book boyfriend. Loved it. You should read Take You Down first, but you don't have to. Like you could totally read this one as a standalone, but you should read Take You Down first, just because there is a lot with the band that happens in other books. But yeah, loved it. Amazing. Yes. Then we have Business Casual by B.K. Borison. This is the 4th book in the Love Light Farm series, and I read the first 3 books like 2 years ago. So I've been waiting forever for this book to come out, because I read them when they were still indie, and then they got picked up. So all 3 had to be published first, and then this one was published. And this follows Nova and Charlie. And Charlie is the heroine from book 1. Stella is her brother, her half-brother, and they have formed a friendship. They've become really good friends. Charlie is a like finance bro in New York, and he goes down to Love Light like once a month, like every other weekend basically. And then Nova is the sister of Beckett from book 2, and she wants to be a tattoo artist, and she wants to do it on her own merit. She doesn't want her brother she doesn't want to disappoint her brother when he's been the one to like really like help her. And her and Charlie have always kind of had like a fun, cute, flirty banter. And one day she like asks him if they can hook up, and he's like, what? He like laughs at her, and he thinks she's joking, and she thinks that he thinks she's a joke. And so, you know, there's that miscommunication, but it gets resolved so fast, and loved this so much, and I'm so glad that I finally read it and that it's finally out. Then we have Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. This is probably going to be on a ton of people's list. This book is amazing. This is Justin and Emma, and Justin posts like an Am I the Asshole post on Reddit. And he's basically saying he named his dog after his best friend because his best friend is marrying his ex-girlfriend. Not why he named his dog after him. He named his dog after his best friend because his best friend is leaving their, like getting out of their lease early. So now he has to live in this horrible apartment. And so he gets like the ugliest dog imaginable and asks if he's the asshole for naming his dog after him. And in this story, in his post, he talks about how every girl he dates finds the love of their life after they break up. And Emma messages him and says, I have that same problem. Every guy I date finds the love of their life after we date. So maybe we need to break the curse and date each other. So she goes and spends the summer she's like a traveling nurse with her best friend. They go to Minnesota and her and Justin end up meeting and date, like fake dating, but also like really actually dating. And yeah, of course it's gonna lead to real feelings. And this does connect to Yours Truly and Part of Your World, and in such a great way. Loved it. Amazing. Of course. Then we have the next 1 and 2 go back and forth on which one's my favorite, but number 2 is Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This is the second book in her new Rose Hill series. A lot of people I've seen, like from what I've seen, a lot of people have put book 1 Wild Love. I loved Wild Love. I gave it 5 stars. Ford is so fun, but West and Skylar are just perfect. The feelings I felt while reading this were feelings I felt while reading Reckless, which I just like. West is basically if you took Cade and Theo and put them together and they made a baby together. And that is everything I wanted in a hero. And so, yeah, loved it. Amazing. Definitely pick up this series. I know a lot of people either really loved Wild Love or didn't like Wild Love, but then a lot of people really did love Wild Eyes. So even if you don't love Wild Love, pick up Wild Eyes. So good. Love it so much. Then, of course, number 1, which is also kind of 2.5 books in one, and that is the Spark of the Everflame 3 books. What's it called? Kindred Curse Saga. Specifically, books 2 and 3, Glow and Heat of the Everflame. Heat of the Everflame has not been traditionally published, so I don't have it. I didn't get the indie paperback editions, but yeah. Also, I didn't realize how gorgeous the end papers are. But yeah, this follows, so book 2 and book 3, 5 stars, amazing, absolutely everything, obsessed. But you can't read books 2 and 3 without reading book 1, which I will say book 1 is not like the greatest book of all time. I mean, look at like the size difference. But I knew going in that book 1 is not like the best, but books 2 and 3 are fully worth it. And so I kind of adjusted my expectations for book 1. And so this follows Diane Bellator. And Diane is told her whole life to stay away from the kindred, or the descended. The descended is what they're called. She's told to stay away from the descended because her mom doesn't want her working with them. And so she needs to stay away from them. And one day her mom goes missing after talking to one of the descended. And she is determined to figure out what happened to her mom. And so she kind of she takes over her mom's job as a healer and ends up going into the castle. And there she meets Luther Courbois. And Luther Courbois is the ultimate book boyfriend. He's probably number 1 this year, but I love him. And Luther and Diane don't really like each other. He's very curious about her and why she is the way she is. And yeah, it is amazing. The ending of this, like, you'll read the ending and you'll be like, oh my God, I need to continue. And then you'll continue and you'll be like, I get why everyone loves this. Like, book 1, It's fine. Adjust your expectations. It is not going to be 5 stars. It is not the best book ever. Adjust your, like, so go into it with like lower expectations. But book 2, buy book 2 if you're not hooked. You probably won't like it. But books 2 and 3 are amazing, and I am impatiently waiting for book 4. But I love it, and in the meantime, I will reread books 1 and 2. I loved the series so much, and it's definitely like it's my favorite. So yeah, and it'll probably be on a lot of people's favorites this year. But yeah, those are my 24 favorite books of the year 2024. I'm excited for what I'm going to be reading next year. If you made it to the end of this video, leave me a tree emoji for Sparkly Everflame, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all the fun stuff. It really helps me out, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. Bye.